green. Are you an ultimate Eagles football fan? Well, you're in the right place. Ready? This is Birds 365, hosted by the new Mac and Mac, Jody McDonald and John McMullen.
Here we go.
Who collectively have covered and talked about more than 50 plus years of Eagles football. Kick off your day with Birds 365. You'll get debate.
We love to argue.
You'll get the real story from inside the locker room. And you'll hear from some of the great football minds from around the region. You're about to become an Eagles insider. Get in the game. Join Jody Mack and Johnny Mack and join the football community that flocks to Birds 365. Birds 365 starts right now.
Welcome to the NFL. Let's go!
Like the man says, let's go with 2 hours of Birds 365 right here on the JAKIB Media YouTube channel. You got your boys, the Mac Bros, Jody McDonald and John McMullen hanging with you for the next 2 hours as we start to edge closer to Sunday Night Football between the 5-0 Philadelphia Eagles and the 4-1 Dallas Cowboys. Showdown on Sunday night. Can't get here quickly enough, but we'll help you get prepped for it, ready for it over the next couple of days. Johnny Mac, still more than 3 days away before we actually get to see the Eagles and the Cowboys on the field. But we did see some guys on the practice squad yesterday, or at least it was rumored that we saw them because they put out a tentative injury release walkthrough here in Philadelphia. But this has actually been pretty accurate if you judge by the first 5 weeks. And some pretty good news for Eagle fans because the injured list, although not fully participant, you did see guys back out there on the field for the Eagles.
Yeah, always a good sign. And as you mentioned, they scaled back to a walkthrough, so it was an estimation. But basically, everybody was out there except for Josh Jobe, who showed up with a shoulder injury. Rookie backup corner, been a big part of the special teams coverage. He's the only
is that a
one...
good thing or a bad thing these days?
Yeah, well. The special teams he's been one of the key guys, but yeah, take that as how you want to. Obviously, it hasn't been a great unit as a whole. And that's pretty good. So, but I mean, it's evident they want the offensive line as healthy as possible for this particular game. And they should, because if the Cowboys have a path to beating the Eagles, it's going to be probably with the pass rush and creating turnovers. And the easiest way to do that is to get Micah Parsons unleashed. But he didn't practice, by the way, although all indications from Dallas are he's going to play in the game, and they're being cautious with him. Unleashing him and DeMarcus Lawrence and creating turnovers. And Trayvon Diggs has been an Eagles killer in his early career. Boy, that guy's got 4 interceptions against the Eagles already. He just got here, and he's got 3 in one game. He had 4 passes defended. In another game, he had 3 passes. He's just killed the Eagles. So that's but it's interesting, Jody, because if you look at last year, it's done a complete 180. It really has. The Cowboys were the explosive team, and the Eagles had the small margin of error to get to a win. They had to play the right way. They had to game manage. They couldn't turn the football over. And, the first game, Trayvon Diggs took one back 59 yards. This time, it's the exact opposite. The Eagles are the explosive team, and the Cowboys have to play game manager with Cooper Rush, and they got to figure out how to turn the football over and maybe make a couple splash plays that way. And they have the small path to get to a victory. So it's interesting how quickly things change in the NFL.
And the Cowboys, with their own injury report, Dak Prescott did not participate. He was on the field. He threw the football some. He was not considered a participant in practice. And even their head coach had to come out yesterday and said, as of now, they are preparing Cooper Rush to be the starting quarterback here in Philadelphia. Cooper Rush is 4-0. His quarterback ranking is not bad. He's in the top half of the National Football League, not in the top 5 or top 10, but he is in the top half. He has played efficient football. Are the Eagles in a better way because they're going to be facing Cooper Rush, or are the Cowboys actually more of a chance to win because their quarterback's going to start?
No, the Cowboys are, I give Cooper Rush all the credit in the world, but no, just what I said. I always talk about good quarterbacks and great quarterbacks, and what they do is they increase the margin of error. In lesser quarterbacks, you have to play a certain way. And the Cowboys deserve credit because they've been able to scale back. And as I said, whatever term you want to use, game manager, they got to take care of the football. They can't make mistakes. They probably got to play from the lead, all these things. And if you get down 17-0, the game's over, period. End of sentence, and that you could argue it's over anyway with Dak Prescott, but you're more explosive with Dak Prescott. There's more opportunities for slip ups, and you can recover a little bit. With Cooper Rush, man, you got to be on your P's and Q's, and it makes it much more difficult for the Cowboys.
And if you disagree with that, I know Cowboy fans certainly will, because they want to dream the dream, and they want to point to the fact that Cooper Rush is 4-0 and 5-0 in his career. But one of the things that I lean on, right, wrong, or indifferent, and I've been doing so for years, long before the evolution of easy national betting, that most of the states in the union have the ability to take bets and put an app right there on the phone, and you can bet any place, anytime, anywhere. I've been using this going back to when the only places here in the United States you could bet were Vegas, Atlantic City, and at your corner pub that you did back in the corner, exchanging envelopes because you weren't supposed to be doing it out in public. The wagering line. Do you know what this game opened at, John? On Sunday night after the Eagle game and the Cowboys games were over and done with, they put out an opening line on the next week. Some places put it out like days in advance, but they use Sunday night as the demarcation of what the line opens up at. Do you know what the line opened up at?
I get the emails, but no, I don't remember. I don't pay that close attention.
At Philly, Eagles at home, the Eagles were a 1-point favorite. That's it. The Eagles were a point choice. The line opened this week with the Eagles a 1-point favorite.
Well, that's something's wrong with that.
Well, here's what it was. We didn't know if Dak Prescott was going to be able to play.
But even if he was going to play, doesn't that strike you as...
I checked it just before I came on the air. It opened at -1. It has climbed, rightfully so, to the Eagles -6, or in some places -6.5. That's what the line should be. But you never see it. A line moves a point or two, key injury, blah, blah. 5.5 points. It opened at the Eagles -1. So the only thing I can read into that was the possibility that Dak Prescott could play. And as we've gotten to Thursday before a Sunday night kickoff, it's climbed as high as it has because it's pretty obvious now that it's going to be Cooper Rush. That's where the line should be. I hope some EO fans got in at -1 if it was posted at that, and you were able to grab a hold of that, because that's a hell of a line for you to get if you believe the Eagles are going to win the game, which I do. But that's how much at least Vegas thinks of Dak Prescott and the upgraded quarterback if he were to jump back in instead of Cooper Rush.
Well, that's a crappy line. I got to criticize, and not often. They usually get it right, but I mean that would be even if Dak Prescott plays. Now it should be lesser. Obviously, it should be less, but 3 points generally is what you get for home field. I would say 4-point favorite, maybe Eagles. Give them an extra point because they're the better team. But then you add in the fact that if he did play, he's coming in with barely any prep. He's coming in with rust, and he's probably not going to be a typical Dak Prescott. Boy, yeah, I hope people got in with that number because that number is awful.
And the other thing that may have played it, this does play into it from time to time because you get immediate reaction. The Eagles coming in, sneaking away with a victory out of Phoenix with Matt Amendola missing a very makeable field goal that could have sent the game to overtime.
Yeah.
And the Cowboys with an impressive upset win over the defending champion Rams in a game that really wasn't close in the fourth quarter. Sometimes there's an overreaction to what you've just seen. Remember what you've seen most recently, and then the line adjusts itself thereafter because people rightfully handicap the entire season. That's the only other thing I can think of as to why the line would have been as obnoxiously as
I mean, there's also, I always joke there's certain teams in football, it's the Cowboys, and they're always just a little bit more. People think a little bit more of them than they really are. It's the Yankees in baseball. It's the Celtics in basketball when they're good. Notre Dame in football. There's those certain teams that I don't know what you want to call it, but they just have a little bit overblown because of their reputation.
They're a magnet for money, and you are right on, and you named the correct teams. And the Cowboys are probably the most nationally bet team in the entire league. So we're still 4 days away from the game actually being played. We noted that the Eagles had a lot of guys out there in limited fashion yesterday, estimated injury report. But it looks like the offensive line should be all good to go, which is a major key in this game because, John, I'll go on record and say this is the best defense the Eagles have faced so far this year. They are 5-0, and you can't complain with the results, but they will be tested more this week offensively against the Dallas Cowboy defense because this is the best defense they played all year.
Yeah, I agree with that for a couple reasons. One, there's a lot of talent on the defensive side of the ball. I mentioned a couple of them. Starts with Micah Parsons, obviously, but also DeMarcus Lawrence, we know. Although Lane Johnson has kind of owned DeMarcus Lawrence over the years, so that's a positive for the Eagles. Trayvon Diggs, though, has owned the Eagles, as I mentioned. He's only been here for 2 years. This is his third year, but he's got 4 interceptions against the Eagles. He has dominated. And the positive there is Jalen Hurts is taking care of the football. So we'll see how that works out. But yeah, Nick Sirianni, I asked him about Diggs yesterday, and he brought up Malik Hooker as well because they had Indianapolis. He's playing really well. Former first-round pick who got injured and is starting to play like it. Donovan Wilson, I think, is one of the more underrated safeties in this league. If people don't know him, Dorrance Armstrong's playing well. And then, speaking of former first-round picks, they have Dante Fowler, who, never lived up to the billing. And I'm not going to sit here and say he's a great player. And he just plays pretty much now as a pass rusher. But, with him on the field, with Parsons and Lawrence, it all of a sudden becomes, instead of a guy who's getting double, he never sees a double team. And he's just in that role. He's been really good. And Dan Quinn, I mean, he's one of the best defensive coordinators in football. It's interesting to me, people talk about the Eagles coordinators and all the interest they're going to be getting. And when Matt Rule got fired, Shane Steichen was number 3. We're talking about betting markets already. And if he continues on, we know Jonathan Gannon already had 3 head coaching interviews. The Cowboys coordinators, Dan Quinn was number 2 in that list to replace Matt Rule. It was Sean Payton, Dan Quinn, Shane Steichen. Kellen Moore, their offensive coordinator, he's one of those guys who people think is going to be a head coach in this league. It's interesting because John Fossil might be the best special teams coordinator in football. A lot of people don't have respect for Mike McCarthy for whatever reason. They probably have the best group of coordinators in the NFL, the Cowboys.
And
I
by
would
the
say.
way, Eagle fans, your record against Mike McCarthy. You can have all the opinions you want on Mike McCarthy. Mike McCarthy couldn't advance with Brett Favre. Mike McCarthy hasn't won a playoff game since he got to Dallas. Yeah, there are a lot of things to point to Mike McCarthy not getting the job done. Here's one thing he's done: is beating the Eagles. When he was with Green Bay, since he's gotten to Dallas, he's got a winning record against Philadelphia. So
Well, he's got a winning record. He's one of those guys. He's got a winning record against everybody. I mean, he's one of those guys who, you're right. I mean, it all comes down to him. And we kind of saw it with Andy Reid in Philadelphia for many years. I mean, everybody in the industry kind of knew, well, Andy's a really good coach, but he got a lot of criticism here because he couldn't get over the hump and win the Super Bowl. And he still gets a lot of criticism because he's only got one, Jody. I was looking it up. I forget, it's 9 or 10 10-win seasons for Mike McCarthy. Now, I say the same thing with Matt LaFleur. All right. A lot of it has to do with the quarterback, but, he won 12 games last year before the disappointment in playoffs. And look, they should have won that game. They were the better team. They were the home team. They should have won the football game. They didn't play well. But I don't know. For everybody saying Mike McCarthy's the worst coach, I mean, the guy's got 147 NFL wins. He's got to know something. And the coordinators, as I mentioned, that's part of it. That's part of it. Now, Jerry Jones will spend money for coordinators more than most owners, so he deserves credit as well. But this is a good coaching staff. It really is.
Agreed. And I don't know that the Eagles will win this game purely because they outcoach the Dallas Cowboys. That'll be a tough task. I think it's two evenly matched coaching staffs going mano a mano on Sunday night. All right, J-Mac, you got your Mega Mac guys here on Birds 365. We got two good guests coming your way. First up, we're going to talk to our bud, Scott Grayson, sports anchor on Fox 29 and host of Props and Locks on their Friday night. Get you ready for the upcoming Gridiron weekend. Scotty's been on with us before. He'll join us again coming up next. And then in hour number 2, Mike Missanelli, part of the Eagle pregame show here on the JAKIB Media YouTube channel. Mikey Miss going to jump in on hour number 2. So we got two good guests coming your way. Your job is to stay right where you're at here on Birds 365.
At Pond Lehocky, we've recovered billions of dollars for our clients, and we're confident we can do the same for you. With over 250 years of combined courtroom experience, we've helped over 100,000 injured clients obtain some of the largest settlements in Pennsylvania. One conversation is all it takes to help you and your family get back on track. If you've been injured in an accident, give Pond Lehocky a call.
Go to get your game on. Go for the beers. Go for the cheers. Go for the hit and the hits. Go for the stakes and the stakes. Go to get your parlay on. Go to get your party on. Go for the scene. Go for the screens. Go for the gallery. Go for the win. Go to Ocean. Visit theoceanac.com to plan your visit.
Go passionately. Go fearlessly. Go confidently.
Go Birds!
Go confidently towards your goals with First Trust, Philly's hometown bank for nearly 90 years, and the official bank of the Philadelphia Eagles. We're focused on getting you over the goal line. So go with conviction, go with trust,
Go Birds!
and go forward with us by your side. First Trust Bank, the official bank of Philadelphia Dreams. Oh, and go Birds.
Welcome to Pond Lehocky. We've helped over 100,000 injured and disabled workers obtain benefits, as well as some of the biggest settlements in the state. If you've been injured at work, give Pond Lehocky a call.
Score and save in southeastern PA and Delaware with Colony Pools this football season, and let the experts close your pool with a custom Merlin safety cover in green for the birds. And if you join our Winter Watch team, we'll give you another 20% off, and Colony Pools will handle it all. Keep your tiles on your pool, not in your pool. Fly with Colony right now, birds fans. Visit flywithcolony.com.
Jeff D'Ambrosio, Destination Downingtown's 5-day used car super sale. Jeff puts an end to high prices now. 5 days of the best car, truck, and SUV deals ever. Over 1,000 vehicles, every make and model. Stop overpaying. See Jeff today and get a quality car, truck, or SUV now. The 5-day used car super sale. Experience how easy it is to deal at Jeff's. Nobody treats you better. Nobody gives you more. Jeff D'Ambrosio, Destination Downingtown. GoJeffAuto.com.
Appreciate you joining the stream here on Birds 365. You got your Mega Mac guys, along with our bud, sports anchor and host of Props and Locks on Fox 29. He stays kind of busy on Sundays. We got him here on a Thursday morning with us. Scott Gratian up on Birds 365. Scott, it's only Thursday. Doesn't it feel like it should be like Friday or Saturday that they should be kicking this damn game off in about 24 hours?
I'll tell you, it's been an emotional week for everyone, right? I mean, we all stayed up late last night with that rain delay, watching the Phillies, and all along, you know, you've got this one waiting for you at the end of the week, and it's the night games. You're going to go through all Sunday waiting for it.
Don't remind me of the night game aspect.
Right. But it's what a week. I mean, that's all you can say is what a week to be a Philly fan.
And you mentioned the Phillies, Scott. In a way, does that kind of help the Eagles a little bit less microscope on this game than typical for especially Cowboys Eagles Sunday Night Football?
I would think so. I mean, obviously the attention is devoted to the Philly, and as the team comes home now and you look at a home game Friday and Saturday, I think, sure, the media attention is going to be more focused on that up until we get to Sunday. And then this is it. I mean, I would think unless there's a game 5, you're talking about this. And you know, I think what we learned about the Eagles last week, they showed me something last week, right? We were all talking a little bit about watch out, this could be a trap game, that whole thing. My thing was, let's see how focused they are on staying on the Cardinals. And they got the Cardinals' best shot. When you're undefeated, you're going to get everybody's best shot. And they did. And they stayed focused enough to ultimately win the game. You could say Kyler Murray with half a brain cell maybe does something different at the end of the game. You know, it worked out in their favor. But they, to me, did not overlook the Cardinals. I don't think they did. And I think that showed me that this team, even with everything going on with the Phillies, will obviously remain focused on the task at hand and knowing that, you really shouldn't have to get yourself up for this game. It's the Cowboys.
Yeah, this is not a trap game. This is not a trap game.
Yeah, that's not part of this week's conversation. All right, since you went there, let me go step back before we step up with the Cowboys. The thing that from the time the game ended, I was thinking it and then said it here on Bird 365 on Sunday. Most important and impressive thing about the Eagles' win on Sunday was when they needed to, they went to the back pocket, pulled out the trump card of, we'll run the ball right down your throats. 17 plays, take almost 8 minutes off the clock. That is a real nice thing to have, something that you can lean on when necessary. They would prefer to be a more wide open offense and have balance and everything else. But when they need to, they can go, we've got the best offensive line in football. We're going to run it down your throats, and there's nothing you can do about it. Does that play into this week's game? Are we looking at a similar type game? Because both of these teams can run the football, and the Eagles haven't been great at stopping the run either, which means the Cowboys, are going to come in and try and do this. How much of this is going to be a grinded out game, Scott?
I think you're right. I think it will be that way, especially in the second half for whichever team is leading. I think what you saw the Eagles do is what they'd love to do in this game, right? Have another second quarter like they've done, have the lead going into the locker room, and then really try to shorten the game a little bit in the second half, wear down the defense at the same time. You pointed it out. This offensive line, and they didn't have Mailata in that game, as well as you had Dickerson and Kelsey rotating in and out at times with injury and with coming back from it. So, they weren't 100% by the end of that game. And so it was really impressive to me, Jody, as you pointed out, the way the offensive line basically said, we got this, just follow us. We'll keep moving the chains. And I think as you look ahead to this game, I think you're right. I think the first half is going to be about trying to get the lead and then trying to suffocate the opponent in the second half. And I think both teams are capable of potentially doing that, which is why it puts a premium on the Eagles to, again, play with the lead. When you play with the lead, you've shown that you are very tough to give up the lead against. And the impressive thing was, to me, the way that they've won these games. They've done it in different ways every week. And last week they were faced with a situation where they had a tie game. They went down, took a ton of time off the clock, as you said. You want to see that drive end with a touchdown. We all would say that. But they got the field goal and ultimately won the game. So you say, great, you got out of Arizona with a win. I'll take that.
Yeah, I'm with you, Scott, except that's number 2. When I look at the Eagles, the most impressive things to me, you just mentioned one of them. Not only are they unbeaten, they've won different ways, which tells you a lot. But even more impressive to me is the Eagles constantly talk about 2 statistics, to the point where both Nick Sirianni, Jonathan Gannon, Shane Steichen, all 3, have said the only 2 statistics that lead to winning that matter are turnover differential and explosive plays. And, kind of obvious with turnovers, but the explosive play part, they lead the NFL. I think they're tied now with the Jets, by the way, explosive passing plays. I think they're still number 1 overall. Good for the Jets, by the way, Jody. In the turnover differential, they're number 1. Typically, when you take care of the football, you're not generating a lot of explosive plays. The Eagles have been able to do both, which is it blows my mind. And this is the biggest test yet, because I was mentioning before you came on, Trayvon Diggs has killed the Eagles. 4 interceptions, pick 6. Micah Parsons on the other side. If they can take care of the football here, there's no way the Cowboys can keep up with them. Is there?
You would think so. I think you laid that out very well. I think, what has worked for the Eagles is, and they got a big turnover against the Cardinals early in that game, which it just helps set the tone, right? Like, we're going to be here. We're going to be in your face. We're going to harass you, and we're going to take it away when you give us the chance. You got Cooper Rush back there. I know everybody wants to talk about how well he's played, and he has. He's trying to do the same thing, take care of that football. And with the Eagles, you look at that, John, I think you laid it out very well, that has been impressive, the way that Jalen has taken care of the ball. And the Eagles have not fumbled it as running backs, which we've seen in the past. Or Dallas Goedert gets a nice gain and then fumbles it fighting for that last yard. That stuff hasn't happened. And that goes to discipline. I think that goes to coaching, and certainly, in that regard, the explosive plays you pointed out, I almost would say it's more like back-breaking plays. I mean, you look at that completion to Dallas Goedert. What did that do to the Cardinals' defense late in that game, right? Those and they've had several of them. There was one to Devontae Smith last week, and there have been every week. There have been those kind of 10-plus yard plays, or even Miles Sanders last week with a 12-yard run on first down. I mean, those kind of things will just be back-breaking plays to a defense that gets, now this drive's going just like, this or that. We didn't get off the field 3 and out, whatever. I mean, all that starts really weighing on a defense, I think. And so when you combine not giving it up and putting your defense in a hole, as well as saying we're also going to have these back-breaking plays occasionally when you think you're getting off the field, you may have us, in 3rd and 12, and then Jalen breaks the pocket, makes a completion like that. Back-breaking plays just takes a lot out of a defense. And I think that this team, as you pointed out, has done both those things very well through 5 games.
All right, I'm playing a little devil's advocate here, just in case Eagle fans don't pick up on that. The Eagles are number 1 in the NFL in plus-minus, +9 at this stage. And as John just relayed, that is a stat that the Eagle coaching staff puts a lot of emphasis on, which means they're getting their job done. Cowboys are number 2. You got the top 2 teams in the National Football League at plus-minus, which Trayvon Diggs is the kind of guy who's going to come up with a pick on the back end. But Cooper Rush, too, Mr. Game Manager, hasn't given the ball up. And he's not going to if the Cowboys are going to come in here and run the football. The Eagles right now are 25th in the NFL against the run in this kind of important category, yards per rush. They're giving up 5 yards per rush right now. Now, some of those are because the other team is trailing and you're not expecting him to run it, so you're leaning toward covering the pass. But 25th in the league is not good any way you slice it. Should we fear the fact that they may just come in and try and do to the Eagles what the Eagles did to the Cardinals? We're going to try and run the ball down your throats. We believe that with Zeke and with Pollard that we can just keep the chains moving and go down the field that way and take time off the clock. How is Jonathan Gannon going to prepare for this and not allow this happen Sunday night?
That's a great point. And I think it's going to be one of those great chess matches to watch. You're right. You got to worry about them being able to do that. And what the Eagles, I think we're accurate in pointing out that some of that yardage has been late in the game when Gannon's just protecting the first down marker. So he'll give up a 5-yard run, for example. But I think overall, I don't know that the Cowboys have faced a front four or a defense like the Eagles have. They've certainly had some lesser opponents. They played teams that we thought were going to be really good and that they have not been. But that being said, they've done the job, and they do have those 2 good backs. And they've done a great job of, I think, managing. Zeke's the guy getting the paycheck. Pollard is the guy kind of getting more of the workload, and Zeke's filling in where they need it to. And they've done a good job of managing those 2 guys. That's the challenge for Gannon, frankly, as you pointed out, is you got to stay out of those 3rd and short situations. If you can do that and make Cooper Rush be the guy that beats you, I like the Eagles' chances in that kind of a formula. But if you allow them to get into 3rd and 3 and everything's open in the playbook, then you're at the mercy of trying to make those stops. And last week, I felt like the last couple weeks up until last week, the Eagles linebackers have done a pretty good job of tackling. Last week, they missed some plays.
Yeah.
And I don't know if some of that was, and even Josh Sweat got back to Murray and didn't bring him down. Some of that's the elusive quarterback. Some of that's the running back. They were down to their, 3rd, 4th running back? And they were still having trouble.
Benjamin was the last healthy running back, and he's the one who brought it in to tie the game. Before Cameron Dicker became the special teams player of the week for a 23-yard field goal. Come on, people. 20. Look, I love the kid. He's a great kid, but you got to make a 23-yard field goal.
You do. In this league, you better, or you're out here without a job for sure.
Yeah. And Matt Amendola, that was 43, and he kicked that to New Mexico, as I said. It was so far right.
Yeah, and the great job by the broadcast crew, right? I mean, right before that, they showed you how many times in warmups he missed it to the right side. But I think to kind of finish up that thought, you just look at what they've done, and that is a concern. They've got to be able to stop the run, especially I think you have to set that tone early in the game because we all know Mike McCarthy's not the greatest coach, and if they start, if you get them, show them that you can stop it early in the game, he may just scrap it. He's kind of crazy in that way, but we'll see what happens.
I want to talk about the coaching staff because Jody and I were talking a little about that Mike McCarthy narrative. But before I get there, we'll know more today because they're actually going to practice. They have to practice one day on the field. So we'll know more about Jordan Mailata, Landon Dickerson. If it's Jack Driscoll at left tackle again versus Micah Parsons, because they're going to move them. Let's be honest. They move them all over the place, and they're going to see, Jack Driscoll's out there. Right there, Micah. Or, Cowboys starting a first-round pick, Tyler Smith at left tackle against Josh Sweat. Who has the advantage there?
That is a great question because that's been in the back of my mind too, right? This is one of those games you'd really love to have Jordan Mailata out there. Right? I mean, he's just a big man that has to be in the way for Micah to have to deal with. But I think the Eagles know if he's not 100%, then Parsons will still take advantage of him. That's a great matchup to watch. And like you pointed out on the other side, I think the Eagles are better suited to win that matchup, partly because they have a quarterback who can get out of harm's way if he feels Parsons coming through. I mean, that's an advantage, but he's still got to get out of there and then be able to make a positive play or throw it away. Cooper Rush obviously isn't as mobile as Jalen Hurts. And I think you can look at a whole bunch of ways you could try to mismatch the Eagles. You can put a Hassan Reddick over there as well. You move him around. You've got, the Eagles are just so well built personnel wise. When they see a hole on that offensive line, which the Cowboys have been trying to plug all season, even with Jason Peters, that now, they realize they've got a big problem over there. And obviously the Eagles are going to realize it too. I think the advantage is more in the Eagles there if they can exploit that mismatch and you keep guys fresh, right? It's not just Josh Sweat. It's Reddick. It's you put Brandon Graham potentially. I mean, he stays on his side, but you've got guys you can put over there to take advantage of that with fresh bodies. And eventually you wear him down. I think, that'll be an interesting thing to watch because quarterback hits is also a thing you want to keep an eye on, right? The Eagles have gotten there. Even when they don't get the sack, they get the hit. And if you can rough up Rush a little bit with Dak out, you're only helping your chances. And I think that's
you don't want to get the Will Greer, Scott Grayson.
I've covered him in college. I have respect.
I know.
But yeah.
Scotty, I remember having a conversation on WIP with a Cowboy fan before the season started. And one of the debates we were having was the best wide receiver on either of the two teams. And the Cowboy fan obnoxiously said, it's CeeDee Lamb, and it's not even close.
Now, but by the way, can I jump in, Jody? Because preseason, I agreed. I thought CeeDee Lamb was better. I was wrong. I said I knew A.J. Brown was good. I didn't know how good. CeeDee Lamb is a drop machine, tremendously explosive, but he drops the football. Not even close. A.J. Brown's the better receiver. So I'm doing my apologies to.
Fair enough. And by the way, Devontae Smith, who's number 2 here, who's got to share the wide receiver load with A.J. Brown. Who the hell is CeeDee Lamb sharing it with? Brown these days? Come on. Noah Brown. Devontae has more yardage receiving than CeeDee Lamb at this stage of the year. So, yeah, the Eagles are the best offense that this good Dallas defense has played all year. Can they strike the balance? Can they get the proper balance? Last week, the whole we're going to throw wide receiver screens because we're afraid of the Cardinals coming with the blitz. Last week wasn't the Eagles' best effort at play calling as far as offense goes. Do you have faith that they'll strike that perfect balance against the Cowboys this week?
It's interesting. You asked me that a year ago. We were still trying to figure out this coaching staff and how will they self-scout? How will they learn from week to week? What will they change? What will they adapt? I've gained a lot more respect for this coaching staff in that regard, especially on the offensive side of the ball to say, okay, what did we do last week? What do we need to do better here? And they're talking about, yes, A.J. Brown only had 3 catches last week, and they were all early. So they know they got to keep him involved. Devontae Smith, 1 week, 0 catches. What do? They go out and they give him involved. I think they've got to let this game really come to them and tell them what to do. I want to see the screens be part of it because I think that'll help keep Micah Parsons from pinning his ears back and trying to go after the quarterback. Just kind of maybe wait a second, see if that ball's coming out to the perimeter and try to be out there to make a play that way because we all know he's got a good nose for the ball. I also think you have to watch Trayvon Diggs and see, which receiver is he taking out of the game? Which one are they trying to take out of the game? And say, fine. And you have to be willing, I think, in this game to say, if they want to take Devontae Smith away, that's fine. We've got A.J. Brown, Dallas Goedert. You go down the line of guys that they can throw the ball to, and that's fine. I think you look at this offense, and I agree with you. They've got to stay balanced, which means don't get away from the run. And I think for the most part, this team has done a pretty good job of staying balanced week to week to week. And some of that, I know it caught up with that last drive where they ran so much and it became more balanced by the end. But that's all part of the game. And I do have faith in this coaching staff to look at this Cowboys defense and see where they can try to stretch them out, try to get some plays, and make them have to respect what they can do. The RPOs, but look, we've all talked about it too. And Nick is defensive. You got to be careful with Jalen Hurts. And these guys, the Cowboys, knowing they're going to see him again later in the season, I worry about those cheap shots, late hits that teams can take, even when he slides. And I think they've got to be a little more concerned about that.
Scott, you intimated something about Mike McCarthy that a lot of people intimate, and basically that he's not a very good football coach. I want to push back on that. He's got 147. I just looked this up yesterday. 147 NFL wins. He's won 10 games 9 times. He's been in the playoffs 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times. He's got a Super Bowl. I told Jody he has put together the best coordinator staff in the NFL. Dan Quinn, Kellen Moore, John Bossel. Why do people think Mike McCarthy is a bad football coach?
Well, I would counter that with saying if I had Aaron Rodgers.
Everybody goes to that. I go to that with Matt LaFleur, by the way.
Yeah. You got to do the same. If you're being balanced and fair, Johnny Mac, you got to say the same thing. If you're judging Matt LaFleur, but Aaron Rodgers,
but all right, I'm going to get the but he won 12 games last year with the Cowboys.
That's true.
And they should have won the playoff game. They were the home team. They were the better team against San Francisco. It's very disappointing. I get Andy Reid vibes with when he was here with Mike McCarthy. And, people say the same thing with Andy today. He's only got one. Mike's only got one. He's got one. I'd look at it the other way. He's got one.
He does.
I don't get it. And perhaps, and again, this is my reporter bias. Mike did our conference calls. So again, veteran coaches do the conference calls. Young coaches don't. Young coaches are awful. He does the conference call. He's an old school guy. But more than that, the coordinators. Dan Quinn is great. Kellen Moore is great. John Bossel is the best special teams coordinator in football. I don't know. I think he's a good coach, and I know people are going to kill me for that.
What bugs me with him, and you're right about the coordinators. I don't know what's going on with my light here. You're right about the coordinators in the sense that I think all coaches are made by their coordinator. If they're not calling the plays themselves, really, you're judged by how good or bad your coordinators are, because you're either having to replace them in the middle of the season, or you don't have to deal with questions about them because things are going well. One of the best things I think Nick Sirianni did was give up the play calling to Shane Steichen and allow himself to manage more of the overall team. That's where I get to Mike McCarthy, and I have a lot of questions about his tactics, about his you can't argue with the resume, as you pointed out, but I would say give me Aaron Rodgers, and I'll try to build a staff based on recommendations from people that are good, and I might go out and win 10 games. And you look at, and you're right, he had Dak Prescott last year taking the ball all over the place. They had a good offense. Dan Quinn has been a great addition from the defensive side of the ball. I just think when it comes down to crunch time and game management at the end of the game, Mike McCarthy does some crazy, stupid stuff.
Same as Andy, man. Same. I'm telling you,
Andy has learned. I feel like Andy has gotten better over time. Mike McCarthy, you can almost argue, has almost gotten worse. And and so that's where if it came down to crunch time, last 2 minutes of the game, you have one timeout left, and you've got to manage the ball down the field to try to get a game-winning field goal. I would rather have Andy Reid over Mike McCarthy every day of the week.
Yeah, there was that Seattle NFC Championship game when he was with Green Bay. That was, one of the worst game management situations. So I agree with that. Look, he's made mistakes. Nobody's perfect, but
no.
I'll take 147 wins over most of these guys. Most of them, the Nathaniel Hackett's of the world. I'll take it. Josh McDaniels, I'll take it.
Oh yeah.
There's a lot of bad coaches in this league, and Mike McCarthy's not one of them. That's all.
But I think it's interesting you bring up the point, though. He has one ring, so does Andy. When you look back at how these seasons unfold, nobody would have expected the Eagles would have gotten a ring when Carson Wentz got knocked out. Was that coaching? Was that Foles? Was that the team rallying around? You have we give credit, I think, sometimes to people falsely for rings.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Not to say they don't deserve them, but they get a lot of the credit at times when I think there's other people who pulled a lot of the weight to get that team.
Oh, yeah. The stars have to align to win a Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. And that's why, and this is why I love Andy Reid. And to a certain extent, I give Mike McCarthy a lot of credit, because I think the better coaches are the consistent ones that put you in a position to where the stars might align and everything goes correctly. I think those are the truly, truly great coaches. But that's just my opinion.
I hear you. I agree with your standpoint, and the consistency speaks volumes, right? 10 wins, double-digit wins every year. That doesn't happen by accident.
Yeah. All right, Scott. We know the Eagles are 5-0. Of those 5 games, 3 have been played in opposing team stadiums, but 2 of which you could probably call Eagle home games because there were as many Eagle fans in the arena as there were the opposition's fan base. So, and any way you slice it, 4 out of 5 home games, 2 out of 5 home games. Truth is, it's only 2. One of which was in a torrential downpour against the Jacksonville Jaguars, which might have put a little bit of a damper, pun intended, on the crowd. The Vikings Sunday night game is the only true home game they've had so far. This one is supposed to be nice on Sunday night. Double check the weather before the show started. 72 high for the day. Going to be in the 70s in the afternoon, which means 60-ish around kickoff at 8 o'clock. No precipitation whatsoever. How rocking will the house be at Lincoln Financial come 8:20 on Sunday night?
Add in a full day's worth of liquid courage into the fans. And I'll tell you what, I I've been telling my kids this week, like, you wait, that stadium is going to be, you'll hear it through the TV, but it still won't do it justice. And that's something that this team really needs to capitalize on, right? The crowd is your friend. They are at your advantage. They're going to make life difficult for the Cowboys offense to, snap the ball without some false starts and things like that. Frankly, I'll be disappointed if there aren't a few of those that help, set the Cowboys back a little bit on some drives. This crowd needs to stay in the game. The Eagles need to keep them in the game. And if they do that, I think it's going to be very hard for Dallas to win this game. And that's where you look at it and you say sometimes home field may not matter. Yeah, the Eagles have taken over home field from other teams on the road with their fans. This is one of those times, look, you got to go back down to Dallas, and they're going to have that place, probably rocking the way they do. You got to own this here. And these fans need to step up. They need to be ready to come to that game and make themselves, to borrow the phrase from Seattle, the 12th man. I mean, you got to make yourselves loud, and that crowd should be great, especially if the Phillies happen to somehow get by the Braves.
Well, are we going to get a Billies chant at an Eagles game now?
Wouldn't that be something, right?
That's not going to
You get Eagles chants at Phillies games all the time.
Yeah.
Probably won't take long for Eagles chants to break out at Flyers games this year. So if there are anybody in the stands to do it, but
At S Grayson Box 29, you see him there. Follow him on Twitter. Watch him on Props and Locks. I was going to give you a lock, Scott Grayson, and my lock was someone somewhere was going to take Jason Peters' comments, bleeping idiots, out of context when talking about those fans, the Eagles fans that you were just talking about that have to take over this game. Are you surprised? I haven't seen it yet. Are you surprised no one has taken bleeping idiots out of context from Jason Peters?
Well, that might be partly because of the Phillies. Everybody's paying attention as you pointed out earlier. But it's funny you brought that up, and I kind of was getting ready to come on. I was like, I bet that's going to come up today with one of you guys, and it was you. I had to read that. I have not seen it. He did it on camera. I had to read that comment like 3 times, frankly, to understand what he was trying to say. Because the first time I read it, I thought, oh, wow, it didn't take him long to put that star on his helmet and turn against this fan base. And then I read it again, and I thought, wait a minute.
He was being nice.
I think he's
Jason Peters way.
Yeah.
He was being endearing.
Yeah, and I think he's in a tough spot, right? How do you put that star on your helmet after being here and doing what you did here, and then having to answer questions about this without offending one side or the other? And you got to make sure you've got a little bit of an edge to you in Dallas, so they don't throw the tar.
Well, Jason doesn't have to worry because nobody's
he's big enough to defend himself for
nobody's
anybody.
Going to say you know what to Jason. Eagles fans aren't going to say you know what to Jason if they see him.
No.
All right.
Not to his face.
Scotty, I'm going to lean into props and locks as well with my last question.
Sure.
It's 8:17 if they're supposed to kick off at 8:20, and the captain's head out to the middle of the field. And the referee flips the coin, and the Cowboys call it incorrectly because the visiting team gets to call it. So Cowboys say tails and it's heads, or Cowboys say heads and it comes up tails, which means the Eagles will have the choice. Is it a stone cold lock that Nick Sirianni will defer and give the Cowboys the ball first, whereas the Cowboys can actually run the ball a little bit, and I don't know, you want to test the Eagle defense right away? Or will Nick say, give us the football. This is the best offense you've seen all year, Dallas, and we're about to show it to you. So we'll take the ball and march it down the field first to start this game. Tell me it's not a lock that Nick Sirianni will defer just because Nick Sirianni always defers.
It's a great question, right? And I think it goes to see, it's a great question. I would like I'm of the mindset that you've got the fans jacked up. Your best side, well, I was going to say their best thing has been their offense, but their defense gets the player of the week every week almost. And
every week.
You could argue that, I think he really loves having that first possession coming out of halftime. So if I had to bet on it, I would say they defer.
Let me help, Scott. It's a lock. Please. They're deferring. It is a lock.
You don't think that he would?
He loves to kill me. He knows I want to take the football, and he predicts the defense first every single week, and he wins like 19 out of every 20 times.
Yeah.
So your hope then, Jody, is that the Cowboys win the toss.
Cowboys win the toss. The Eagles get the ball because the Cowboys incorrect. No, but if I were the Cowboys, I might play it.
I would take the ball if I were the Cowboys. This is a perfect example of, look, I would defer if I'm the Eagles because it's Cooper Rush. I don't give a flying. Give him the football and try to sandwich the scores in the second quarter, third quarter. This is a game where the Eagles
which side of the ball is better for the Cowboys?
Defense.
Well, don't you want to put your better?
No, because I'm going to shorten the game because they're not as explosive. So I want to go on an 8-minute drive to start the game if I'm the Cowboys and shorten the game.
It's funny. You guys are putting out there almost like the key to the game is the coin toss.
It might
starts right away before you ever come back. Well, what's her name will have sung by the time they flip the coin.
In Tampa last year, the Eagles made a big mistake. They should have taken the football. But this is a different Eagles team. They're so explosive. Top two, they're number 2 offense, number 4 defense. Cooper Rush, give him the football. Here,
let me throw some at you guys. Because how crazy is it we're sitting here 5 weeks in and the best division in football is the NFC.
That is crazy.
And not only that, when you
look at the AFC West is terrible.
When you look at the Eagles' schedule, their 4 toughest games are most likely the Cowboys and Giants.
Yeah.
Because the Packers I looked at as being a big game, but now the Packers
going to back the pack. He's not going to give up on them that easily.
I'm not. And the Giants not the week to do it because the Giants just beat the Packers, but I think the Packers will be more difficult than the Giants.
They tend to get better as the season goes on, and I agree with you. I think the Giants are a little bit of a fraud, but you got to give them credit. They're 4-1.
Yeah.
All right, but watch out this week because the Packers have the Jets.
Yes.
Yes, Jets. Watch out. If the Jets beat the Packers next week, I'm going to be giving McMullen such a hard time.
Well, the Packers, the Packers might stink. I mean, I don't believe in Matt LaFleur. They're not.
Right, but Aaron Rodgers cures all wounds, according to you.
Yeah, but he's getting older. No one likes him. His own teammates. So who knows? It might be eventually it ends for everybody, even Aaron Rodgers. Even Scott Grayson on Birds 365, unfortunately.
You can thank me later when the Jets have softened up the Packers for the Eagles in week number 11.
Eagles don't need it. They don't need any softening up.
They might not. Yeah. All right, Scotty Grayson, great stuff. Always a pleasure whenever you come on. Give our buddies over there with Fox 29 with you our regards. Thanks for jumping in today.
Oh, love talking with you guys. Thanks for having me.
Thanks,
Grayson, sports anchor at Fox 29 and host of Props and Locks.
It's a lock, Jody. Defer.
I know it's a lock. I'm just gonna. Sometimes you just keep digging, even when you know you're digging at a hole that you're probably never going to get out of. You feel the need to
gotta
keep
stop.
Digging.
Put down the shovel.
I'm not putting down the shovel. It should be I'm not saying it will be. And track record is track record, and track record is overwhelming. It should be an individual decision every single week.
I agree with you, but this week it's easy. It's easy.
Yeah,
you give
I
the
disagree with
football
you.
to Cooper Rush.
I
Just give
disagree
it to
with
him.
you. I want to no, I want to take the ball my offensive line again. Your vaunted defense, your now heralded defense, maybe your slightly overrated defense. I'm bringing my offense out here and going right down the field and putting a quick 7 on you.
Oh, those are fighting words. Overrated defense. I think this might be the best defense in the NFL.
In the
Dallas
entire
Cowboys.
NFL?
I think it might be.
Well, then live up to the challenge, Nick Sirianni. Say, I want the football. Let me go against the best defense in the NFL, according to John McMullen. Let me take the football.
I haven't looked. I know they're ranked 7th. I haven't looked. But, it's in the conversation. I'm not saying it is, but it's in the conversation.
I surely agree with that. Both the Eagles and the Cowboys are in the conversation as one of the best defenses in the NFL. All right, we'll keep the conversation going here on Birds 365. Come back, a couple more things I want to run by Johnny Mac. One of them won't be will they or won't they defer? Because, we already know the answer to that. If Nick Sirianni wins, if the Cowboys lose the coin toss, the Eagles will be giving the ball to Dallas first. A couple other things I do want to touch on before we get Mikey Miss up here with us. Mike Missanelli, one of the co-hosts of the JAKIB Media post-game show, live from Oceans. They'll be down there on Sunday night after the Cowboys and the Eagles. But Mikey Miss will join us coming up about 25 minutes from now. Stick around.
The greatest fans on earth. It's a bold statement, but would you expect anything less from Philadelphia? 58 years of heartache creates a toughness, a grit, a resolve not found in most. Sure, our prayers were answered, but now that we've had a taste, we're looking for more. Pondley Hockey, official partner of the Philadelphia Eagles.
The faces you know, the team you trust. The Delaware Valley's leading news program, Action News.
Go for the beers, go for the cheers, go for the hit and the hits. Go for the scene, go for the screens, go for the gallery, go for the win. Go to Ocean.
You got your Mega Mac guys, John McMullen and Jody McDonald here with you on Birds 365. The countdown is on to Sunday Night Football when the Eagles and the Cowboys will do battle at Lincoln Financial Field. The 5-0 Eagles and the 4-1 Cowboys. You got to give them props. They're 4-1. Yeah. They lose their opener to Tampa Bay. Didn't play well. Dak Prescott didn't play well. Gets hurt at the end of the game. And Cooper Rush has come in and won 4 straight games. I know he hasn't wowed me at all, but the Dallas defense has, and that's why they're 4-1. So this is a major showdown, not just because it's Eagles Cowboys, not just because it's an NFC East showdown, but these are two better teams in the National Football League facing off. Yeah, the biggest game this week, sorry to say, Eagle fans, is the Bills and the Chiefs, because that's a rematch from last year, the controversial ending, the whole overtime thing. But easily the second best game nationally is Cowboys and Eagles. So they will get the big spotlight on Sunday night, which the Eagles can once again shine in and go to 6-0. All right, J-Mac, I got a specific strategy question for you for the game Sunday night. This is a trick question, and I'll apologize for you ahead of time. Maybe you do know it right off the top of your head. Receiving yards by the Philadelphia Eagles through 5 games this year out of the backfield. How many yards do you think they got?
Not many. I don't know. Let's see. Sanders, Gainwell, Boston, maybe 120, somewhere in that range.
How does 64 sound?
Yeah, that's bad. That's
64 bad. Yards receiving by their backs this year.
I think I'm, you know, Jody, you know, I've been talking about this since the summer. Kenny Gainwell did not look good in the summer at all. I mean, at all. And that has kind of manifested itself. But, you know, if anybody was going to get receiving yards in the backfield, it was going to be Gainwell.
Right.
You know, he's not relevant. He's not playing well. So, and Miles has done a little bit better than I would have thought. What's Miles got? He's got most of that, right?
He's got 2/3 of it.
Yeah.
Miles has 41 yards.
Yeah.
Kenny
I thought he had a little bit more than that.
21 yards.
Yeah.
And Boston Scott has 1 catch for 2 yards.
Yeah.
So that's it. That all 3 guys combined have 64 yards in receiving in 5 games. Do that math. That's less than 13 yards a game.
But I'm gonna revert with who cares? I mean, this is a second-ranked offense. I mean, a lot of it is, and I talked about this as well. Why would you dump it off to a running back to get 5-6 yards when your quarterback can get 12-13 yards in a scramble? That's part of it. Another part of it is
I'll argue with you. Jalen Hurts can get hurt. You let him run the football. Jalen Hurts get hurt. Why would you want to put Jalen Hurts at risk? Jalen Hurts is our guy. Well, now, you don't necessarily believe that. I don't necessarily believe it. I think he's one of the tougher quarterbacks in the National Football League. But you know you're going to have the hue and cry from the fan base. You can't do that. You can't let Jalen Hurts put his body at risk. We got to keep him healthy. The Eagles themselves, they so overemphasize health with the way they practice. You going to put Jalen Hurts at risk?
Well, they overemphasize health during the week, not on game day. They want Jalen Hurts to go win the game. And I applaud them for that. And he's better at it. So that's one. Number 2 is Devontae, AJ, Dallas Goedert. One of them's always open. You know, I've heard people complain Quez Watkins doesn't get the football. Who gives a lion, you know what? No, he doesn't get the damn football because he doesn't deserve to get the football because the other guys are so good.
It's the same thing as Nakobe Dean on defense. There's a reason why Nakobe Dean's not playing, because Kaiser White and TJ Edwards are playing as well as they are. It isn't because they're holding him back or they're afraid to put him in. No, the guys in front of him are just better. And the same thing with Quez. Quez, nice guy. We know you can get behind the defense, but we're sorry. Devontae and AJ Brown get open more often than you do. That's why they're going to get the football.
I don't get this obsession with numbers, stats, but I told you that I say it all the time. I told you the 2 categories the Eagles value, and that's it. The one I've been getting this week is passing touchdowns because Jalen doesn't have a lot of passing touchdowns. Who cares?
Right.
Who cares? Why is Miles Sanders getting the ball? Why is Kenny Gainwell getting the ball? I mean, one of my favorite things, I can say this now, because Doug Peterson eventually said it on the record, but he first told us off the record, and we were having a big discussion. If you remember, Matt Collins was playing a lot at the time. I mean, playing a lot, and he didn't get a target. He didn't get a snip. And people would say, Matt Collins isn't getting receptions. And Doug looked at the person that shall remain nameless and said, he's the sixth freaking option. If I'm designing plays for Matt Collins, you guys should kill me. Now, he eventually said that on the record as well. I don't know what people think, but you don't go down to number 6. All right. You don't go down to the 6th option. You're designing plays to get the football for A.J. Brown, for Dallas Goedert, Devontae Smith, in the passing game. Everybody else is getting fumes, Jody. Everybody else is getting fumes.
Here's the reason why I brought up the lack of yardage in the passing game for the guys coming out of the backfield. There's a reason behind me pointing that out. Not that, oh my God, how do they not do it? But it is what it is. And it's been what it's been to this point. And I would have to go through all 5 game tapes, but I'm just doing it off the top of my head and watching the game on TV, which I do. You're actually live at the game, so you can speak to this better than I can. It seems to me like they very rarely keep the back in for blocking purposes. That even though they've only got 60 some odd yards passing to the backs in the first 5 games, they're always in the pattern. It's just that Jalen Hurts is going elsewhere with the football and or pulling it down and taking off and making a play with his legs. Like you said, that would be the better of the 2 options, which I agree with. Do you think this week, with as good a pass rush as the Cowboys have, I think they're number 2 in the NFL with 20 sacks, they keep it back in a little bit more often? And is that a strength for any of the Eagles running backs?
No.
Yeah,
No.
it's not, is it?
That's part of the reason. I mean, yeah, they don't have good pass protection. That's kind of a lost art, by the way. There aren't many good pass protectors anymore as running backs. There's a few. But man, watch some old tape of Emmitt Smith as a bad. That's one of the things I said about Emmitt Smith. That guy was, at the time it was Emmitt Smith versus Barry Sanders. Everybody would say Barry Sanders was the best running back. And I would always say it's Emmitt Smith. And I would say Emmitt is the best running back. Barry Sanders is the best runner because Emmitt was great in pass protection. It was a really good pass receiver too, as an outlet receiver. Just a well-rounded player. And obviously, they're both Hall of Fame players.
But. And he had a nose for the end zone.
Oh, yeah.
When they got in close, you knew Emmitt was getting it. You know he was getting into the end zone. That's why Aikman had so few touchdown passes.
Yeah.
He was, Troy Aikman out of Hall of Fame. He doesn't throw touchdown passes. Well, if you had Emmitt Smith and you got the ball at the 6-yard line, what would you do with it if you were a coach? You just, hey, go ahead, throw it, Troy, because we need to get you more touchdown passes? No, Emmitt pounded home again.
Yeah. And, kind of a lost start. Miles isn't good at it. Kenny's probably a little bit better, but he's not good at it. Boston's doesn't play. And Trey Sermon just got here. No, I mean, you think they're going to save you from Micah Parsons?
Right.
He might
be. Let me ask you the follow-up question. Dallas Goedert is so good at getting out and making plays in the pass game. Another player whose non-strength is blocking. We know that he's a great receiving tight end, but he can block. We know that if they need him to block for running plays when they have him out there on the field, he's really good. They don't ever keep him in to add to the pass protection. He's going out. If it's a pass play, he's going out. 19 out of 20 times. They almost never ask him to stay in. The Cowboys have had the ability, kind of like the Eagles against the Commanders, to get there with 4. They don't need to bring a 5th to get to the quarterback. They're doing it with just their 4. What if they go complete aggressive and they're bringing 5? You're not keeping it back in. You just told me that. None of them are really good at it. I'm going to say they're not going to keep Goddard in there because they never do. If it's a pass call and Goddard's on the field, he's going out. He's not staying in to help. You leaving it all up to Jalen? You got to read the extra man and know exactly where he's coming from and avoid that to be able to throw the football. What do you do if the Cowboys are blitzing an inordinate amount of times on Sunday night, John?
You could worry. I mean, it's Dan Quinn. I don't think you have to worry about that. But if by some, strange bolt of lightning, he turns into a different person overnight and feels like he has to do something different, then you have all these, and that's what the bubble screens were about last week about the blitz. Now, I hope the Eagles coaching staff, and that's Nick Sirianni and Shane Steichen, come up with a different plan than just constant throw it out to the outside and see what happens. That's more that I would put more on the coaching staff to have better blitz alerts in the game plan. But you don't have to worry about that. I mean, Dan Quinn's Dan Quinn, and it's going to be cover 3, and there's going to be, you mentioned it, he's trying to get home with 4, and it's about making things muddy for the quarterback, reading coverage, and he's been very successful. One thing about coaches, they're not doing that. They're not practicing to do a certain thing. Forget about this week, through the summer, through the off season, and then showing up for one particular game day and throwing all that in the garbage and becoming a completely different guy.
See, but that would impress the snot out of me. That would really show me something. You want to prove yourself the best coach on the planet. And we're talking about Dan Quinn being one of the best candidates to get a head coaching job next year. Out of nowhere, becoming a blitzing team when you've been showing for years, not just here with Dallas, but prior to this, in your head coaching spot and your assistant coaching spot in Seattle, he is a track record of just trying to get there with 4.
Yeah,
coming in out and being uber aggressive against the Eagles with a blitz, pull that off, knock off an undefeated team. Yeah, you'll be put on a Jordan Payton.
I mean,
as the hottest assistant coach out there.
You might do it in a big spot. You might do it. You certainly have. It's like Jonathan Gannon always says. Everything is in the game plan. You might pull it out in a big spot, but if you're expecting Dallas to be Arizona and blitzing 50% of the time, that's not what they do. So they're not going to change that. Now, if it's 3rd and 7 in the fourth quarter of a tight game, here might come the overload and Parsons gets loose and you turn the football over. That might happen, but not the consistency of it. They're not changing their whole philosophy for one game.
All right, do me a favor. Look up percent. I'm sure you know how to look this stat up. Percentage of blitz plays team where they rank in the NFL. I'm with you. I know they're in the bottom half, but I'd be interested to see if they're in the middle of the pack or if they're down there in the top 5 or 6. Because off the top of my head, and I don't watch every Cowboy game, every single snap, because I'm watching Eagles. I would think that they're in the lower third of the NFL, but do me a favor, see if you can look that up. Maybe Quinn has been a little bit more aggressive because the Cowboys have got home second most in the National Football League this year.
They have athletic linebackers too. Obviously people know Leighton Vander Esch is still there, but they picked up Anthony Barr who can do it. So maybe they're a little bit, and obviously, technically Mike Parsons is a linebacker, but he's a linebacker like Hassan Reddick is a linebacker. Yeah. So they have the people who can do it. But yeah, I wouldn't worry too much about that. It's all.
See if you can tell me what the numbers are on how much they blitz so far this year, because that does scare me a little bit. They're a good defense. They've been able to get sacks. They do it the way they do it, and the Eagles don't have that alternative to try and adjust and go, yeah, but we're so good on the outside. We've got such a good tight end if you keep the running back in, or we have a guy who can make a play out of the backfield and turn it upfield and get us 25 yards on a screen or a flare pass. They never do that and keep Goddard in. The Eagles never add someone to the protection. Now, they've got the best offensive line in the NFL.
That empty set has been very successful for them. That's part of the reason. And when you talk about, Miles Sanders being split out, or maybe it's Kenny Gainwell, or maybe, it's the extra tight end, whatever, and they're going empty. It's about spacing. It's about creating spacing for A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, and Dallas Goedert. So that's their guys. That's who the passing game is built on, and that's who the passing game should be built on. And number 2 offense in the NFL. So I can't criticize Nick Sirianni just yet for doing it the way he's doing it.
When they go empty backfield too tight, then I know at least they got a chance to have an extra blocker because his name's Jack Stoll. They're not worried about getting Jack into the pattern as the make the difference guy for them. He's going to stay in and try and make sure the quarterback stays clean. All right, we're cleanly going to take a timeout here, then come back with our bud, Mikey Miss, part of the Eagles post-game show right here on the JAKIB Media YouTube channel. We'll get a little Cowboys-Eagle talk going with Mike Missanelli next here on Birds 365.
Go to get your game on. Go for the beers. Go for the cheers. Go for the hit and the hits. Go for the stakes and the stakes. Go to get your parlay on. Go to get your party on. Go for the scene. Go for the screens. Go for the gallery. Go for the win. Go to Ocean. Visit theoceanac.com to plan your visit.
Jeff D'Ambrosio, Destination Downingtown's 5-day used car super sale. Jeff puts an end to high prices now. 5 days of the best car, truck, and SUV deals ever. Over 1,000 vehicles, every make and model. Stop overpaying. See Jeff today and get a quality car, truck, or SUV now. The 5-day used car super sale. Experience how easy it is to deal at Jeff's. Nobody treats you better. Nobody gives you more. Jeff D'Ambrosio, Destination Downingtown. GoJeffAuto.com.
Score and save this football season on your car insurance. Before the next game, save up to 40% on your auto insurance policy. That's right, 40% savings. Call an audible this season and contact the Del Val Insurance Group. They're an advocate for you, not an insurance company. That means they'll get you the right coverage and save you up to 40%. Call managing partners Fran or Jim of Del Val Insurance, 215-354-0122, or score and save at dvigi.com. dvigi.com.
Hi everybody, my name's Jason Lombardi. I'm an inspector at DryTech. At DryTech we offer 3 major services. The first one being basement waterproofing. The second service we offer is foundation and structural repairs. And then the third service that we offer is mold remediation. If you feel you are having a waterproofing issue, give DryTech a call or check us out online.
Over the last 17 years, we've built a reputation of growing award-winning teams across the country. Staffing is not easy, but that's what we do every day, all day. The key to our success is storytelling, asking the right questions to find the right people. Hi, I'm Gary Kane, president of Kane Partners. We want to be your staffing partner.
here on Birds 365. The Mac guys, McMullen and McDonald, joined by our bud from the JAKIB Media Eagles post-game show down there at Oceans on Sundays. He's got the Sunday night gig this week for the Cowboys and Eagles. Mike Missanelli, good enough to jump in for a couple of minutes here. MM, how have you enjoyed your time down there at Oceans?
It's been a fun time. I had to miss last week because I got hit with this COVID. So unfortunately, I couldn't be down there last week. But it's really exciting down there. I mean, there's so many people that are invested in the results of the game that are behind us. It kind of gives the show a lot of life. So we're having fun doing it.
I wonder why they're invested, Mike. They might have a shekel or two.
Well, it's really funny. We'll be in the middle of a really salient Eagles point, and we'll hear this roar that has nothing to do with anything except for somebody's got money on this game on a big screen. That kind of throws you off, so you have to kind of like block all that noise out to do the show.
All right. Well, if someone put money on there would be two unbeaten quarterbacks in the NFL. There's only one unbeaten team, as Jody Mack pointed out to me, but there's two unbeaten quarterbacks, Mike Missanelli. And I'm sure you had Jalen Hurts and Cooper Rush as the two.
Cooper Rush came out of nowhere for me. So, you can kind of believe that Jalen Hurts, you looked at the schedule and you go, okay, if he evolves, then maybe they could be undefeated. That's what's really happened. The Cooper Rush thing is interesting to me, John, because they've kept it pretty simple for him. And he hasn't thrown an interception. A running game has helped that a lot. I think they've been strategical in the way they've used that kid. But, it's like, I don't know. I keep going back to this backup goalie theory. Eventually the backup goalie, hits a wall. And I'm thinking that maybe this guy's eventually going to hit a wall, and hopefully it's this weekend, because I look at the line is astronomical for this game in favor of the Eagles.
Yeah, I mentioned that earlier, Mike. I use VegasInsider.com, which has been very good to me for a long time. They opened this game at -1. Eagles were only a 1-point favorite. Now I'm banking on that all being Dak Prescott could play. When it became rather obvious that Dak wasn't playing, it went to 6. You don't see a line move 5 points from -1 to -6. That just doesn't happen.
Yeah, those lines get my attention too, Jody, when it happens like that. So it really is interesting. That's great respect for the Eagles, but I don't think it's great respect for the quarterback. I think people are just waiting for this kid to hit some kind of a bad streak, and he's a journeyman. I mean, let's face it. So that line tells me Eagles solid in this game. But, there's two dynamics to this game. It's whether this banged up offensive line right now can withstand what they're going to throw at them. They've pressured the quarterback very well. They've got, 4 sacks or +5 on turnovers, whatever it is. To me, that's the key, whether they're going to be able to hold off Micah Parsons and DeMarcus Lawrence in this game.
You mentioned the backup goalie theory, Mike. Does that hold true for the Eagles as well? Where are we with Jalen Hurts? Because I know where I am, but
he's beyond the backup goalie at this point. I think that he's frankly wowed me, to be honest with you. He's made smart decisions and he's made assertive decisions. And listen, it helps when you have those kind of receivers. And when you've had a balance with the running game that they've had, and their offensive line has really run block well, and anybody they've put in there has filled in admirably, John. So I think the fact that he has grown leaps and bounds, I don't see that he's going to all of a sudden take this step backwards. I think his evolution has been pretty amazing and impressive to me.
Mike, you and I started covering this town about the same time, late 80s, early 90s. So we've gotten to a lot of quarterbacks, Randall Cunningham, Donovan McNabb, Carson Wentz, now Jalen Hurts. He's a little bit different than any of them. Handles his business, says what he says the way that he says it, different than the other quarterbacks. Now, it's the toughest position in Philadelphia. Nobody is more scrutinized than the quarterback of the Philadelphia Eagles. Not the Flyers goalie, not the Sixers superstar, not the Phillies ace. The quarterback is more under a microscope than anybody else. You like the way Jalen Hurts handles his business both on and off the field?
At first, I didn't, Jody, because I thought he was like too ultra serious, and I'm like real skeptical of these guys that are ultra serious because they're trying to convince themselves to be serious. But I think with him, it's kind of genuine. I mean, he's smart, and that's one thing I really didn't take that much into consideration when I was evaluating. He's a smart guy. I'm watching some highlight film. He knows exactly when to get down, when to avoid a hit, and like he's thinking in his head all the time about. I compare him to Carson Wentz. Like Carson Wentz has no idea how to be smart as a quarterback, and this guy has really figured it out. What he can't do, what he shouldn't do, what he can do. It's really pretty impressive to watch. To be honest with you, and he's thrown the. Listen, he's improved measurably throwing the football. I didn't see that at all. I didn't see it in college. I didn't see it when he played early on with the Eagles. He's figured something out, and I give him a lot of credit. I was a skeptic, but like right now, I look at the guy, I go, I can't be a skeptic. He does everything that they need to be done with this offense.
Mike, if there is a path for the Cowboys this week, it probably is with the defense against the Eagles' banged up offensive line. You're a Penn State guy, so Micah Parsons has turned into perhaps the most dominant defensive player in the NFL. He's dealing with a bit of a groin, but Jordan Mailata's banged up. We're going to see. I don't want to see Jack Driscoll against Micah Parsons. I think Jack has done a tremendous job filling in, but this is a week you need Jordan Mailata back. DeMarcus Lawrence is a very good player. Dante Fowler kind of fits in as a pass rusher. Can Micah Parsons wreck this game?
Yeah, there's no question he can wreck the game right for that reason that you just said. They've been fortunate that these guys have come in. Now, a lot of that goes to Jeff Stoutland. He's just a pretty amazing offensive line coach. He's got everybody ready. But, when you're coming in against a premier player like this, it's going to be interesting to see if they can hold it off. The counter to that, though, is Hurts. And the way he can dance out of there, make plays, and just break their spirit. So it's going to be – it's like a give and take. You got to see first of all, whether Parsons does go crazy. The other thing is whether Hurts can contend with that. I think the Eagles are superior in every way right now to the Cowboys. I think the line reflects it, and I think a hometown crowd on Sunday night is really going to help them. I don't see the Eagles falling here.
You mentioned hometown crowd. The Eagles, in one way, have had a little bit of an extra boost in that they've had almost 5 home games. 2 at their place, but 2 on the road where they've taken over the stadium from the other team's fans, which has been pretty damn impressive. I'll give them that. The only real home game they've had was, and they had the home game in the deluge that was against Jacksonville. So they had the home game against the Vikings. How loud can this crowd get on Sunday night?
I think it's going to get crazy. It's funny. It's on the heels of this Phillies thing, too, which is like everybody's gacked up in this town. It's good. Listen, it's Dallas week. I as a sports talk guy all these years, I always tried to downplay that Dallas week thing because I thought, well, Jody, I always thought that Eagle fan base gave Dallas too much credit. Like I loathe the fact that the Dallas was so much on our minds here that we were obsessed with them, and the fact that the matter was their franchise wasn't that viable all those years of being obsessed with them. So the Dallas week I've always tried to downplay as they're not special, but I was doing that for a reason. But it still is what it is. Let's face it. And on a Sunday night, a big stage like that, this fan base is going to be crazy.
Yeah, certainly post Jimmy Johnson. And if you want to add Barry Switzer, they've given the Dallas Cowboys way too much credit.
Way too much credit. Oh, my God. The fear Dallas Cowboys, that fed right into them because the Dallas people ignore us anyway. They're all about, we're not a rivalry with you guys. The Giants are more of a rivalry with us. It used to really tick me off. So my counterplay was, I ignore you.
It's true, and the Cowboys have just not been to Super Bowls, and the Eagles have gotten one in the W column over the last X amount of years. All right, this specific team, Dallas, right now at 4-1. Yeah, a bit of a surprise. We talked about it last hour. CD Lamb. Some people put CD Lamb on a pedestal before the year started, that he's the best wide receiver on either of these two teams. I think as of right now, he's no better than the third best wide receiver. I'll take A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith over him.
I don't know if I'm going that far, Jody.
I'll
go A.J.
It's an argument because listen,
it's an argument.
I like him a lot. He's impressive to me. But the way these Eagles receivers blend together, I you know what I say when I take CD Lamb over Devontae Smith. I wouldn't take him over AJ Brown. So I guess third on the pecking order would be just about right, even though he's a pretty good player. I don't know if that's criticizing him or not, because he's still a very good player. It's funny. Like, who are they gonna play Slay on him?
They don't.
Would they play Slay on him? Would they play Trayvon Diggs on AJ Brown? How John, do you think that Dallas would align here?
Yeah, neither team travels that much. So Trayvon doesn't travel that much. Darius can, if the Eagles want him to, and they might try to take. I think the Eagles would be more apt to do it than the Cowboys. The Cowboys are, I was talking before you came on, Dan Quinn, cover 3 guy. They're not going to move the pieces around that much. Plus, they have confidence in their safeties. They're playing well. So I don't think you're going to see Trayvon Diggs travel. Plus, the Eagles have so many threats, and you've seen it in the first 5 games. If you try to take AJ out of the game, they just go to Devontae. It could be Dallas Goedert, and it's been that week in and week out. I do, because I want to bring up Devontae Smith for this reason, and I want both your thoughts as sports talk guys in this town. Typically, go back to the Brandon Graham draft. What do people do? Earl Thomas, Jason Pierre-Paul, for years and years and years. And I think it's ironic that Brandon outlasted both. But that draft, in theory, now wouldn't have worked out that way, because the Cowboys wanted Micah Parsons. And if they knew the Eagles were going to take Micah Parsons, they wouldn't have traded the pick. But fans don't necessarily know that. Are you a little bit surprised that Eagles fans haven't latched on to we could have had Micah Parsons? Or is it just because Devontae's so good?
I think Devontae has a lot to do with that, John. I think, when you have a player of that caliber, you're not thinking of the guy that you lost and lament the guy that you lost. Now, obviously, if Devontae Smith was Jalen Reagor, you would have that conversation every day. But I really think it's mitigated the whole situation, because they really.
But as good as Devontae is, and I love Devontae as a player, as good as he is, he ain't Micah Parsons. That's kind of the point.
He's not. He's still a good enough player where you wouldn't think of lamenting the loss of Micah Parsons, I think.
Yeah.
So I think that's the whole thing. Like, if he wasn't as dynamic as he is, then you know how people are here. They would absolutely latch on to that concept. The guy, this is a famous town for the guy you didn't take.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
We were obsessed with it.
Oh, and there are a lot that merits that, continually beating it with a stick, that they made the wrong pick. But
and here's the other factor of this game, and I got to get, because I do the show with Seth Joyner, obviously. And when you do a show with Seth Joyner,
Blitz, Mike, Blitz.
It's unbelievable. He gets spitting mad when the defensive coordinator is not aggressive as Seth thinks he should be, and it's hysterical. We sit there and just laugh at anymore. So it'll be like, I think last week he was afraid to pressure Kyler Murray, and but this is a different story, and I'm wondering. He had some well-timed blitzes last week. Yeah. I'm wondering if this mindset changes with Cooper Rush as the quarterback, and he does get a little more aggressive in this game.
By the way, I was just asking John about the flip side, that I think Dallas might go the uber aggressive route this week, because the Eagles basically trust their front 5. and they're going to keep their fight. They never keep a back in. They never have Goddard chip. He's usually split out. So they say, we're protecting our guy with 5. And if anything comes, we'll have faith in him that he'll dance and get out of the way, maybe turn it upfield, make a play, or if not, extend the play. If Dallas goes uber aggressive, they might be able to get home on the Eagles on Sunday. Seth Joyner will like it because it's aggressive, but he won't like it because it's the Cowboys. I think they're the team you got to watch out for.
They might, but the risk there is Hurts can burn you in a situation like that. Cooper Rush can't burn you in a situation like that. So if I'm a defensive coordinator, I probably do get more aggressive with that guy.
Yeah, and by the way, statistically, guys, the Eagles blitz more against Arizona than anybody else this season. But they were blitzing for a different reason. They were blitzing to sort of keep Kyler Murray under control. Very focused fashion rather than just pinning your ears back and going to get the quarterback. So it's kind of how you do things. But yeah, I love Seth. I love the bat. It's always aggression. It's Mike. We're standing here with the number 4 ranked defense in the NFL. Now it's still a small sample size. It's 5 games, but you know, you have the 2nd ranked offense. You have the 4th ranked defense. The special teams we should complain about. But I do think a lot of people lack context in that this is the modern NFL. It's difficult to play defense. There's 32 teams. You're 4th. That tells me they're pretty good on defense. Am I crazy?
Good. They're good. You know, it's when I looked at this, I looked at it. They added necessary pieces. They needed guys to play in certain positions. They did that. I always look at it like, well, okay, that's good to fill in the position. Can they blend to become a cohesive defense? They've done that so far. I think the front 4 has really stabilized them and allowed other guys. Their corners have been really good, and they throw guys in there now like Josiah Scott and Epps. They haven't really missed a beat. And normally, you know, in the past, you've seen when you have to play backups, you get raked, and they have not. Now, again, this is we looked at these 2 games, the Arizona and Dallas. All right, they're finally going to play better teams. Now, they took one out in Arizona. I know a lot of people were freaked out at the end of that game, but you know they were pretty much in control. So here comes the other team that is supposed to be tough, and they're a 6-point favorite in the game. So, like I say, they're good. I can sit back and say they're good. Now, all right, can they win the Super Bowl? Who knows? I didn't have that thought at all coming into this year. But you know, you're looking at a team.
Nor
now
should you have. And that
Jody
did.
Jody Who did?
Jody. Well, you were looking for value, though. So I give you credit.
You picked the Philadelphia Eagles to be in the Super Bowl.
You did?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, that's pretty impressive. You know, this is good. I could see. Can they be 10-0?
Oh yeah.
I mean, that's ridiculous. And it is helped by the schedule. I get it that it's helped by the schedule, but I'm looking at who's better than them right now.
Well, who's good though, Mike? I mean,
nobody's really
right
good.
now,
somebody has to come out of the NFC and be in the Super Bowl, J-Mac. Somebody has to get there. They're not going to change the rules to go, well, you know, the AFC is that much better. So why do we have 2 AFC teams in the Super Bowl? They're not changing the way they do it on the fly.
No,
Somebody's coming out of the NFC to be in the Super Bowl, and I think it could be the Eagles.
Well, I agree.
At this point, I'm in too. I usually laugh at people that go to the Super Bowl this early in the season, but I go, oh wow, I guess like who are they overmatched with at this point?
Yeah,
nobody.
Well,
not
and
the
that's
NFC.
the people talking about the schedule. Yeah, before the season, we thought the Giants were awful. Well, they're 4-1. I'm one of those people. I still don't believe in the Giants. The Cowboys are 4-1. All of a sudden, the NFC East, the number 2 seed right now in the NFC is Minnesota. The Eagles waxed them.
Yeah.
So who can they play to these critics and say, oh, that's a good win? I mean, Kansas City and Buffalo. That's it.
Hey, listen, Green Bay's coming up, I guess. But I don't
Giants
know.
beat Green Bay.
What are they? I don't know what they are.
Yeah.
So, no, you're right. I think the Giants go down this weekend, by the way. That'll kind of end that little romance with the Giants.
Yeah, tricky game for the Giants this week. All right. Mikey Miss, when you look at the NFC's yardage leaders in passing this year, some recognizable names. Josh Allen first, Justin Herbert second, Tom Brady third, Pat Mahomes fourth. Yeah, everybody knows about him. Seventh would be Jalen Hurts. Not bad. He's in the top 7 of yardage passing so far. Would you like to guess who's number 5? After Allen, Herbert, Brady, and Mahomes.
It's not Cooper Rush, is it?
No.
It's not Daniel Jones, is it?
No, but it's a very recognizable name here in Philadelphia.
Carson Wentz?
Carson Wentz would be number 5 in the NFL in passing yards.
That's the flimsiest stat I've ever heard.
That's why it's a worthless stat, Jed.
It's such a flimsy. Meanwhile, he's putting those numbers up, and his coach is throwing him in the trash pit.
Oh yeah. Ron Rivera rolled him under the bus.
This guy brings out more negative emotions on people that are around him than I've ever seen. I don't know what it is.
Okay. Jody brought up a stat that's kind of, as you pointed out, the head coach just said, threw him under the bus. Here's the one I've gotten this week, Mike. So I want to run this by you. I've started getting this. Jalen Hurts doesn't throw passing touchdowns, and that's a problem. Why is that a problem? Who cares other than fantasy football players? Why would anyone care? This is the second ranked offense. Okay, they run it in typically. It's still 6 points last time I looked. Why does it matter the aesthetics of the touchdon?
It doesn't matter to me, John. It's a good point. I think what people look at is the strike touchdown. Getting close is one thing, but when you throw for like a 28-yard touchdown pass, like they haven't seen that from him. They see it from other quarterbacks. So probably that's why they back off a little bit. But you're right. But if their offense is good enough to get down there and run the football in, what's the difference? He's had to make some completions to get to that spot. Is the way I always look at it.
Another thing that I've been dealing with on the phones, Mikey, with the Eagle fans, I think just unfairly critiquing, has been the use of Jordan Davis. The Eagles aggressively moved up to get him, number 1 pick, blah, blah, blah. Every time he's in there, in the limited amount of snaps, he seems to make a play. Why aren't they playing him more? Why isn't he in on every snap?
I don't know. For some reason, listen, I always look at it like they know more than me. They see him in practice, whatever. And at this point, they're just a little afraid of him for whatever reason. And so they'll pick their spots with him, and they think that's the right way to handle it. So I'll defer to them, but I have the same thought. He looks like a dominant player when he's in there. Now, maybe they think he can't be a dominant player for consecutive plays or a lot of plays, and they see that he's not in that kind of shape where they can really rely on him on a regular basis. I don't know what it is, but I'm not there, and they have coaches. Well, it's not the first time we've questioned a coach's use of a player, right? And I always go, they must know more. I mean, you go back to the who was the wide receiver who was great in practice, and they go, what? Paul Turner. Why didn't he play more? Like guys or the guy from Old Dominion, whose name escapes me.
Travis Fulgham.
Yeah. And there's always that guy, but I go, they must see something I don't.
Here's where I'm with you, but I'm against you, Mike. I'll second guess a coach and usage and the like, but then you got to check the results. And Jordan Davis is ranked as one of the best defensive tackles all 5 weeks that he's played so far. If the results aren't there, then I'll go, well, then they're wrong and I'm right. But the results are there. He's grading out well. Eagles defense is grading out well. It sounds like, to me, they got their finger on the pulse of how to use them.
Yeah,
I don't know. If you grade out really well in 5 plays, that's a small sample size they're probably looking at and say, well, if I played in 15 plays, he wouldn't grade out that high. I don't know. I don't know what it is. It's a good point, though. I think he'll eventually be a very important
he's got a role right now. He's a run stopper.
And they're 5-0. So I go, all right. Well, I can't sit here and complain why Jordan Davis isn't playing.
Well, Brandon Graham is playing less than he ever has at 34, coming off the Achilles tear, but he's also playing as well as he ever had. I think part of that is because they've limited his reps, the depth they have. Jordan Davis, and the same thing to a lesser degree with Nakobe Dean, because you have certain fans saying, why is Nakobe Dean not on the field? Well, TJ Edwards is playing like TJ Edwards. Kaiser White's playing well. So why the impatience, Mike, with young players, especially when you're 5-0 and the veteran players are performing at a high level?
No, that's a question for Jody. Why are you impatient, Jody?
All right, yeah, go ahead. Put it on me. I'll eat it. That's
Jody's impatient. I'm not hearing from a lot of fans that are impatient.
Understood. All right, Mike, last one for me. And readily admit that this is a fluid situation. It's something that changes on almost a weekly basis, but that's what we do as sports talk guys, and we deal with it on our phones and the like. On a scale of 0 to 10, 0 being, why the hell is he still here? 10 being, yeah, that's how many year contract extensions you should get. What kind of a grade you giving Howie Roseman for the offseason he's had this year up until the 5-0 record they go into the Cowboy game this week with?
I'm always reluctant to go all in on him. And
go all in, Mike. Go all in.
Yeah, I guess I don't have a defense right now. I mean, there have been so many mistakes he's had to cover up, but he's covered it up well. So I guess if you're 5-0 and you're a 6-point favorite on a Sunday night against the Cowboys, I've got to give him at least an 8. Right?
Yeah, he pushed all the right buttons this offseason as of now.
Yeah, I've always been reluctant to go all in, but the way he's filled in things and the way he's covered up for mistakes, we have a tendency to forget the mistake when everything's going well, and everything's going well right now. So I'm at an 8.
Yeah.
That's a fair grade. Now it could go up or it could go back down depending on how the game goes. All right, you kind of told us you're leaning this way. Eagles going to win this week against the Cowboys. The number is up to 6, which it started at 1 and went to 6. It should be close to that. Might be a little heavy right now. What do you read into the line? Do you think?
I read that. That's a total Eagles line.
Okay.
I'm stunned by it. It's so easy to take the Cowboys in 6 that I always go the other way. When it's too easy, it's a trap. I need the Eagles win and cover.
And it seems that's the way the line is played all week. Mikey, great stuff. Appreciate you coming on board.
It was funny because it was like that last night with the Phillies. I looked at the Phillies and I go, Wheeler, the Braves are minus 140 with Wheeler going.
Yeah.
And the way that game played out, I'm going, okay, it's probably – and there you go. Something happens and Braves win going away. The line never lies to you, Jody.
Well, you know what? You know what I thought last night's line was? Braves can't lose 2 in a row. So we got to make the Braves a favorite because when the Phillies got the first one, probably coming out with the
Wheeler. Well, minus 140 with Wheeler got my attention. I went, wow. I can see 125, 140.
Yeah, I hope
that's a different sport. That's Phillies 365. We'll talk about it.
There you go. Mikey Mitz, always a pleasure, buddy. Give our regards to Mr. Yeah, good luck reeling in said joiner on Sunday night if the Eagles aren't aggressive enough.
There's going to be some blood talk. Yeah,
I can't fight it. Fighting him is it's like an immovable force. You just can't. You go. All right, whatever. I'll let you go. Go ahead. I'm not going to challenge you.
Mikey, thanks for coming on Counterpunching with us today. Appreciate it.
All right, guys. Take care.
Thanks,
Mike Missanelli, part of the outstanding JAKIB Media YouTube show, post-game show down at Ocean. That's right, Ocean.
Every week.
John and I hang here at Ocean's every single week.
Yes.
Missanelli actually gets a cocktail out of the deal. We don't. Waitress, can I get? Oh shoot, no waitress again.
Yeah,
all right,
they got a nice setup down there. Meanwhile, I got to find some broom closet at Lincoln Financial Field.
Haven't been, but it looks like it's a great setup on the shows on Sunday here on the JAKIB Media YouTube channel. All right, Mac coming back. We need to put a bow on the show. Do us a favor. Go ahead and hit that like button. Before you get out of here, before you check out, start your day, give your boys Mac a little love, hit that like button. We'll come back and do just that, put a bow on the show here on Birds 365.
The greatest fans on earth. It's a bold statement, but would you expect anything less from Philadelphia? 58 years of heartache creates a toughness, a grit, a resolve not found in most. Sure, our prayers were answered, but now that we've had a taste, we're looking for more. Pondley Hockey, official partner of the Philadelphia Eagles.
Action News at 11 with Rick Williams. It's the team you trust to bring it all together. The stories that impact your community, a sports roundup for the locals, and the AccuWeather forecast you depend on. Action News at 11 with Rick Williams.
Go to get your game on. Go for the beers. Go for the cheers. Go for the hit and the hits. Go for the stakes and the stakes. Go to get your parlay on. Go to get your party on. Go for the scene. Go for the screens. Go for the gallery. Go for the win. Go to Ocean. Visit theoceanac.com to plan your visit.
Since 1977 at Rafferty Subaru, we have always been about our customers and the community. Early on, a safe and durable option, we've evolved to become the best overall brand according to Kelley Blue Book. Over the last 14 years, we've donated thousands of dollars through the Subaru Share the Love event and found homes for hundreds of pets. The Rafferty family is proud of our 45 years in business. This month, celebrate our anniversary with special financing on select models. Visit us and see why.
At Stateside Vodka, every new customer gets the world's best rocks glass. Free.
What's that?
A rocks glass?
You're telling me that bottle is cut in half?
You could say that. Holy shit.
And you're telling me I can get one of these glasses for free?
That's right. One free rocks glass per customer with each first-time purchase of Stateside Vodka. So good, it just disappears.
Cowboys Sunday night at Lincoln Financial Field in the big game between the Eagles and the Cowboys. All right, John, we talked maybe more than we usually do about the line. And when I say the line, I don't mean offense or defense. I'm talking about wagering. The fact that it moved as much as it did. I know Mikey enjoys talking to it. I've been enjoying listening to him talk about it over the last several decades. I'm going to stick a line on you, McMullen. And under-over, are you ready?
Shoot.
All right, which, oh, by the way, the under-over, much like the line, started at 51 this week, opened at 51, down to 42.5. So they just put out a bad opening line on this game this week, and they've adjusted it correctly. Here's my under-over for you. 7.5. Under and over, Philadelphia Eagles listed as rest today for today's practice. Will not be participating because of rest. They got to have the biggest rest number week in and week out in the National Football League.
Yeah,
that's again their philosophy of
that's a good number, Jody. You're good. You're better than Vegas, because that original number was awful. Like I said, the Eagles should have been favored with Dak Prescott, without Dak. Pretty significant favorites as well. 7.5. Well, I'm gonna go under. This is a big game.
7.5.
It's probably be 7.
All right. The givens are Kelsey, Isaac, Fletcher, Lane. Usually, well, will they put Lane in there just because everybody else is going to be resting and or partial participant? They ask him to go to full practice?
I think the walkthrough might change a little bit as well. That they sort of had a built-in walkthrough, but it'll be very close. I'm not confident going under.
Okay.
I will say that.
I would lean toward the other because that's just the Eagles. They're very protective. And it's been, for the most part, effective. They got all these injuries now. But again, just like I'm not going to blame the injuries on the fact that they weren't up to speed and didn't practice enough. Same way I'm not going to give them credit when, oh, my God, look at that, no injuries. It's because they don't practice. Yeah. There's only so much of an influence on it. I think
here's another part to it as well. Guys like Dickerson or Sayamalo, who would be candidates, they're going to be listed with the injuries. So they're not going to be listed. Kelsey as well is going to be listed with an ankle injury. So he's not going to be listed.
You don't think they're going to go from being partial participants to no participant at all?
No, they're going to be partial participants. I'm saying they're not going to be listed as as limited participants because of rest. They're going to be listed as limited participants. In Kelsey's case, the ankle, and Sayamala's case, the ankle, and Dickerson, they're all
rest,
ankle.
Do they even participate?
Yeah, they're limited. When they get rest, they're limited. They do individual stuff. Most of those guys.
Okay. All right.
Most of them are limited participation, and they will list it as rest. So typically, Jason Kelsey would be a limited participant. He'd do individual drills, and they would list him as rest.
So even when he's resting, he's dressed and out there and doing something.
Yeah.
If nothing else, just walking around.
Oh yeah, they're out there doing something. So that helps that they're so banged up. That helps you go under, because Kelsey's one right off the bat that's always on that list, but he won't be on it this week because he's on it because of the ankle injury.
All right, you might be right. It might come in at under 7.5. All right, tomorrow will be a good one. The Football Friday always is. Cowboys coming up should be great. We'll have our buddy from Dallas on. He's come on with us before, done a nice job. John McMullen is the beat guy for The Athletic for the Dallas Cowboys, and he's joined us here on Birds 365 before. It gives you a good perspective. Not a homer. He's not just going to come on here and sing the Cowboys praises because they're the Cowboys. He calls it down the middle, which is the kind of guys that we like. We don't want to get homers or haters. We like objective guys, and I think McMullen is just that. So if you want a good Cowboy perspective, be here with us tomorrow, because John McMullen from The Athletic is going to join us. Partner, have a good day over at practice. I'm back here tomorrow morning. You in?
Let's do it. Football Friday, 6-0. Around the corner, Jody McDonald.
That's why you got to love McMullen, though he is day to day. He answers the bell on almost every single day.
Almost.
Even when he didn't get any sleep coming back from Arizona, he was here, and he'll be here tomorrow, as will I. We'll be back with you on Birds 365 in 2 and 2.
You've been listening to Birds 365, the destination for the passionate Eagles football fan who bleeds green. If it's Eagles football, we're talking about it. Debate inside the locker room and guests that are some of the greatest football minds from around the region. We hope you enjoyed the show. We know we had a blast. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll be back soon. But in the meantime, hook up with us on social media at JAKIB Sports. See you next time on Birds 365.